Hi again, guys. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add Salesforce SDK authentication for an existing app. Okay, here is our little app. It simply has a login to Salesforce button, and the idea is, we'll add code so that if we click on this button, it's going to open up OAuth dialog box and allows users to log into Salesforce and returns the authentication result back to this app. Okay, first thing we'll do is to download the mobile SDK distribution from force.com repo. So let's go to and clone that repo. One thing to note is we need to clone it recursively because this repo also has dependency on some third-party libraries. Okay, we have everything downloaded. Now let's open it. So you will see a whole bunch of zip files here, some of them with -debug and some of them -release. So the debug versions are basically debug for debugging, but for this project we are going to use the release version. And also note that there is a third-party folder here. So first thing what we'll do is we'll unzip all the release versions, including third-party libraries. Okay, now we have unzipped all the libraries. So the next thing is to just add them to our project. So let's open up our project and drag and drop the following libraries. Third-party app, third-party folder, Salesforce SDK, Salesforce OAuth, Salesforce Network SDK, Salesforce Native. We don't need the hybrid, that's for hybrid apps, and MK Network Kit. And then just drop them onto supporting files or any other folder of your choosing. And the next step is to add the following dependencies to our Xcode project. For that, we'll go to our project and then select the build phases, and here you'll typically see like this, link binaries, binary with libraries. So you expand it here and then just start going through the entire list one by one. So even if it is there already in your project, it's going to not duplicate it. So all you need to do is just start adding this one by one like this. Okay, great. We now have all our libraries and also their dependencies all in our project. But we still need to do two more things. First among them is to add -Objective-C, -Obj-C, and -all load to our project in the other linker flags. So to do that, let's go to build settings and type other linker flags. So here we need to do -Objective-C and -all load. So that is the first one. And the last one is to add our Salesforce SDK's header files into the search path. To do that, simply type header search in the build settings filter field, and then double click on the header search paths here, do the plus sign and add a root, something like this. So basically what it is saying is this is the root folder of our Xcode project, and this is our application name, which happens to be Salesforce Auth, and this is one of the Salesforce SDK's libraries. And lastly, make sure to make this recursive, because if this library happens to have multiple subfolders, we need Xcode to perform recursive search. Okay, at this point, our Xcode project is fully configured and we are ready to add code to actually log in to Salesforce. And to save time, I'm going to copy paste some code and then I'll walk you through it. Okay, here's the first step. The first step is to import SFAccountManager. This is the class that manages Salesforce account in your app. And next is we are setting up our consumer key and OAuth redirect URI. And we need to set these two things to our SFAccountManager class before we even get started. So we are setting the consumer key and our redirect URI to our account manager. And also we need to set the scope with which we, meaning the app, interacts with Salesforce. And the next step is to actually authenticate. So let me import SFAuthenticationManager to do that. Okay, so here is the second set of code. First of all, we're importing SFAuthenticationManager, and I'll come to these code later on. And then we have our login button handler. So here we are saying, okay, login with completion. So, and then we are providing two blocks of code, one for success and the other one for failure. So basically when a user clicks on the login button, this particular line will be executed. Now, if you look into what is initial login success block and failure blocks, these are simply block of code that gets executed asynchronously depending on the success or failure case of OAuth. And by the way, if you're wondering why we are calling shared manager on SFAuthenticationManager, it's because SFAuthenticationManager is a singleton. And similarly, we also have code for logout. You've already seen that. So when a logout button is clicked, we are going to call logout method on SFAuthenticationManager singleton. And last but not least, let's import SF identity data. So this is kind of a model class that once the user logs in, this class essentially holds all the user's information. And we can use that to kind of toggle our login and logout buttons. So here we are accessing the identity data from account manager. So basically what happens is when the user logs in, our SF account manager actually gets populated with all the users' data. And we can access that by simply sending ID data message. And here we are simply using that to toggle login and logout buttons. And at the bottom, we are actually using the username to set the username in our app. Okay, let's run the app. So you can see that it is asking if we trust our connected app. So I'm going to trust it. I'm going to say allow it, and you can see that our app now knows which user is actually logged in. In the background, you can also see our NS log here is printing all the information associated with this particular Salesforce user. So you can see the email, you can see all the URLs associated with him, thumbnail, picture, thumbnail, etc. Okay, logout works the same, so let me log out, and once I'm done, you'll see that it says refresh token revoked. And now if I rerun the app, it will again ask me to log back in. Well, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys understood how to add Salesforce SDK to an existing iOS app. In the next tutorial, I'm going to cover how to update the same app to work with Salesforce communities, formerly known as Portal. Thank you.